All right, so we'll start with creating a function called begin WebAuthn registration, and that takes in a response of our begin WebAuthn registration response. Okay, so let's start with that. So we'll do func begin WebAuthn registration. Okay, and then this will take in a response begin WebAuthn response. Okay, all right, and just open this up. Okay, so before we get started, let's take a look at Apple's documentation under I'll just put it up right here first. Okay, for register a new account on a service. So as you can see right here, these are the instances that we need to create and also pass in our decoder response into. If you look over here, for example, a user ID, challenge, etc., relying party. Okay, so let's go back to our iOS project right here and start with that. Okay, so first thing we need is going to be our response, right? So let's do let challenge, or I'm sorry, we need to decode our response and grab the objects we need. So let's do response string response dot challenge. Okay, and then next, let's get the username. So I'll put username decoded and put response dot user dot name. Okay, and then user ID decoded response dot user dot ID. Okay, all right, and let's see. So now we have the following. Okay, so the next thing we need to do actually is to oh, let's go back real quick. So show you a little bit more from the documentation. So next thing we need is our platform provider, which is our AS authorization platform public key credential provider, and this is where we'll fill in our relying party identifier, and that's pretty much our domain, right? So we can fill that in with our domain variable. So let's do that. So let's do let public key credential provider equals AS authorization right there. All right. And then for our line party, our party identifier, we can just fill in our domain, which currently is blank, but we'll fill that out later. So we'll just put domain right here for now. Okay. All right. And then after that, let's go back, show you. Now we just have to create our platform key request and then pass that in to our auth controller, right? So let's see. Go registration request equals our public key credential provider, and then we have to create. And as you can see, there are some parameters we have to fill out, right? So our name, username, and our user ID is already type string, but our challenge respond that we get back is string, but as you can see right here, it needs type data, right? So what we would have to do is actually convert it ourselves. And to do that, let me show you right here. Give me a second. Okay. Actually, I don't have the link. So, but I did get something from Stack Overflow on converting it to type data from type string because there's not there is not a native, or there's not a function that comes with the foundation for that. So pretty much I'll just add it right here just to show you guys. So we'll do extension on give me a second, extension on string. Okay, and we'll call this function base64 URL decoded data, and then returns type optional data. Okay, and then var base64 equals self. Okay, and then we'll take the self of the base64, replacing occurrences of following. Okay. Placing. Okay, and then let padding length equals. All right. By the way, I didn't figure all this out myself. I had to Stack Overflow this, but you know, it works. Okay, and base64 plus equals string of padding, and then we'll return data base64 encoded. Okay. All right, hopefully there's no errors. Okay, perfect. So now we can use the following extension on our challenge response string. So we'll do challenge response string dot base64. Well, actually, I forget. We actually need a do a guard statement on it just in case. Be on the safe side. So we'll do guard let challenge base64 encoded data equals challenge response string dot base64 coded, because it's an optional. We got to put in a guard statements to be on the safe side. Else return, and we'll just put print statement here too. Error decoding challenge response string to data. Okay, and then we just pass this in, pass our username decoded in, and pass our user ID decoded in, right? Okay. All right. And then next thing, if you look at our documentation, we just pass that into our auth controller and set our delegate, our presentation context, provider, and perform the requests. Okay, so let's see. Is there a problem here? Cannot convert type. Okay, gotcha. So it looks like we also had to do some conversion for our user ID. So let's see. Okay, so for that, what we'll do, I'll put it right here below. Let user ID equals data. User ID decoded dot UTF-8. Okay, this should be type data now. Perfect. Let's pass that in. Okay. All right, there we go. Error went away. Okay, so let's move on. So we'll do let auth controller, instantiate that with, and believe it's AS authorization controller request array. So passing a registration request. Okay. And then we'll have the auth controller delegate, set the delegate to self, and then our presentation context providers to self, and our controller to perform the request. Okay. All right, and I believe, yeah, that should be it. So just to summarize everything so far. So when a user signs up, right? So whenever this function hits, right? They sign up with their registered username, and they'll put in the string, and then we'll make a URL request, right, to the create user API endpoint, a GET request, and it'll pass in the username as the parameters. And if everything goes well, we get an OK response back. That's where we will continue to our next API endpoint, which is the registered begin API endpoint. And then after that, when the server returns back our response data with the public credential creation options, that will contain, yeah, that will be decoded into our begin WebAuthn and registration response, which is the following here, all of these properties, right? Okay, and once that is decoded, that will, this function right here, begin WebAuthn registration, that's when we can put this here and put in our response. Registered data, response decoded, right? Okay, and that's where actually I need to mark as self. See if that goes away. Okay, perfect. So yeah, this will get passed in to our begin WebAuthn registration function, and then right here, this is when our AS authorizations UI will pop up to the user to generate the passkeys, right? With our public key credential options from the following. So if all goes well, and our user successfully has created the passkeys, that's when the following right here, back to the top, did complete with authorization will trigger. And if there was an error with, all of those previous steps that I just explained, then the following did complete with error will be triggered instead. And this will be a good point where we can add our NS notifications to notify the users that there was an issue with the registration, right? So yeah, other than that, that should be what we have so far, but we can just move on in the next video to explain a little bit more about the did complete with authorization and the did complete with error function. All right, so we can stop right here.